Hi everyone, welcome. My name's Jordy. This video is going to be a tarot lesson for the suit of cups, the water suit, the final suit in the tarot deck. Um, these lessons are geared towards people who are uh, either beginner, haven't done any type of tarot reading before, or anybody who wants to be just brushing up on their knowledge and receiving, valuable insights on how to read cards from a professional tarot reader. This video might be for you as well. Um, so, in all senses, this is an all levels video because there's a little bit of introducing the suit, introducing key concepts and key interpretations, but there's also a layer of experience behind these cards that I'm going to be giving in this video, and particularly how I may read certain cards for certain things that you would predict in a tarot reading, because I am more of a fortune telling style tarot reader than I am getting into like the psychology of the cards. Of course, you have to know the psychology of the cards to be a tarot reader, but some people know them like very deeply in depth, like Jungian style, philosophical style tarot reading, or like highly spiritually healing type readings as well, where the type of reading I can offer and teach on this channel is more so grounded within real life experience, real things that are going on in your life, pinpointing confirmations for you and for the reader. Uh, like pinpointing confirmations for the person you're reading for and even for yourself while you're reading for yourself, I should say. Specific details, like in the Five of Cups here, there's a house. They can be talking about the home. If getting confirmations like that always makes a tarot reading more powerful because it makes you feel like you're being seen and your spirit guides know what you're going through. So I'm also channeling from like support and help from my spirit guides. I trust that the cards that come out are the cards that are meant to come out. And these are key important things as a tarot reader that define us, Um, I prefer to be more of a fortune teller in readings because I want people to get those accurate confirmations in their life so that they can then troubleshoot what's going on in the cards, and from that troubleshooting type of perspective, remove blockages in the way of manifesting the next thing or going deeper within what it is that you already want to focus on. So, the style of reading that I'm teaching here in these videos uh, is going to be more fortune telling style, but also with the twist of like manifestation and trying to help you work through energies with compassion, without being overly critical of yourself. And I would say I also try to read the cards in a way where I'm using my creative terminology. I'm channeling words that um, always have some type of tie back into a particular card that's in front of me. So some people have these full blown concepts about a tarot card, and then they talk about these concepts when they see the cards come up. Whereas for me, I let the card be blank when I first see it, and then I feel what wants to come through, whether it's the image of the card, whether it's the wording of the tarot card, or the traditional meaning behind it. Maybe it's something that I just notice as the first thing that comes up in my mind, or maybe it's a concept that develops as I look at other cards. But ultimately, that's how you channel the cards in a way that brings out words and interpretations that can be like verified by other cards in the spread. So then you're on an accurate direction. Um, So that's the type of reading style that I offer here. So if you're interested in going deeper into this video, today we're going to run through number 1 to 10 in the suit of cups, as well as the page, knight, queen, and king. And then at the end of the video, we're going to run through all of the major arcana that are associated with the element of water. So, the zodiac signs of the major arcana, there's 22 cards. Out of those 22 cards associated with them are 4 different zodiac signs of the astrology, of the stars. Aries, Pisces, Gemini, Cancer, those types of signs. Well, each of those 12 signs, there's 4 elements. So Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio would be the water element, which is the suit we're talking about today. And the cards that represent Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces match up, like those energies match up with some of the major arcana cards that we have in front of us today. So there'll be 3 little subgroups in these cards, and they just talk about different aspects to the zodiac's archetype that are captured within the card. Some of them being celestial bodies like the moon, the sun, the stars. Some of them being, natural laws like death, justice, chariot, tower. And other ones being people, like roles within society, like high priestess, empress, magician, emperor. So there's different style type cards in the reading. There's also, in the major arcana, there's like the change cards. They all talk about change really, but there's the wheel and the world, which are both like cyclical and circle shaped, and they both represent endings. And one's halfway through the major arcana, one's at the end. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, that's a little side tangent on the major arcana. Mostly this video is going to be about the minor arcana today. So before we get into talking about the individual card meanings, I did want to quickly talk about what the suit of water overall can be about. And the water is about going with the flow. Water is about the different states of water. So sometimes it gets stagnant like ice, sometimes it evaporates and becomes hazy like smoke. There's also times when water is falling down from the sky in the heavens as rain, or thundering with lightning. There's times where water is flowing like a river, or it represents an ocean, or even a cup of water. So that's why cups and vessels are the symbol of water, because without those cups and vessels we wouldn't be able to hold on to it. We wouldn't be able to manipulate it and use it. You need a vessel in order to contain water, because water flows where it goes. So there's a lot of beautiful ways to look at the energy of water. It's more fluid. It is fluid, right? And it's more creative. It's got many different creative ways of expression, where fire can be creative in some ways, where it burns, and it can be like lightning, or it can be like magma, or things like that. But the list isn't as long as it is with water. And earth is also very detailed in its expression as well. And both water and earth element, pentacles and cups, are the feminine suit, which are creative. The sword suit, even though it's got many different expressions of air, the theme is very strong. It talks about overcoming obstacles within the mind. With the suit of pentacles, it talks about overcoming obstacles within the material world. In the suit of wands, it talks about overcoming obstacles of willpower and the body and energetic obstacles, spiritual obstacles. And the suit of cups is also very spiritual, like fire, but it's deeply emotional, because water represents emotions. our emotions change just like how the water changes states. And it's a beautiful way to express emotions is through looking at how it's connected to water. These elemental archetypes are really powerful. And water can talk about emotional healing in the spreads. It can talk about stagnations of emotions. It can talk about being confused about your emotions or nostalgic about them, or, you know, seeing yourself in another person. Your emotions around groups of people, around your accomplishments and things that you've done. Emotions about, you know, wanting to go out and seek something more, longing, you know, and also emotions that are just overflowing, like the Ten of Cups, and you know, are like constants in our life, like love. You know, love is a constant in our life, even though it changes shape and form. So there's a beautiful story about your emotions in these cards. And the Suit of Cups is also like the top class, you know, if we're looking at classes within the four suits of living, because in the traditional tarot we have kings, queens, knights, and pages, which are upper class, you know, important people within the court system, who would have been connected to the kings and queens. You know, the knights, the pages, which are like diplomats, and they also represent important connections to the crown. But then we have the minor arcana, which is grouped into different classes of people. There's the working class, there's the artisan class, there's the warrior class, and then there's the merchant class. And the merchant class is the Suit of Cups. That's why the King of Cups is you know, the king of the ocean in this deck, because the ocean represents, you know, merchant ships, which you can see in the background of the King of Cups card, and it's very beautiful. So the class system's outdated. Obviously, we're trying to break through classes, and this deck that I chose today, like breaking through those idea classes, because like we don't, like a class run society is not fair. It's pyramidal, and the way that we're moving as a people is we're seeing pyramids breaking down of structures of hierarchy within our world. Even if it looks like it's worse than it ever was before, it's starting to erupt and erode and break down, and we're moving into an age where the networks we create, you know, creating a web instead of a pyramid where everybody can be part of that web, is the age of Aquarius, which we're moving into, which is very water-like, even though it's an air sign. It's got the flowing water of the cup. So that's a little side tangent, because you know, we talk about the classes within the different working classes of the minor arcana, and it does come up in traditional tarot readings. The Suit of Cups is the top class because the merchant class was the richest class. They're the ones that had access to the trade routes, you know, and they were as rich as anybody else in society, maybe even richer than the kings and queens that ruled. So it was considered the top class in the tarot deck. And it's interesting that that is the class of water, which is very resilient, which is very strong, but also flexible, and like it yields. The water yields to energy, but it also overflows. So there's all these really powerful things that you can relate water to the merchant class energy being the top level in the tarot, the richest suit, basically, because, you know, this tarot deck was looking at society in general with the court cards and the minor arcana. The minor arcana being the day-to-day interactions of emotions and thoughts and actions and material developments in our life. You know, so that's why the Suit of Cups is the last tarot. That's the last element that I've gone through in this tarot lesson series that I've made on my channel, because the Suit of Cups is the final suit. And from a spiritual perspective and not from a working class perspective, we start off with the Wands, which is all about conquering the willpower and conquering our manifestations, learning to manifest, learning what it means to be a fire starter, to be in the suit of fire, and to initiate contact with spirit, initiate contact with your manifestation potential. In the Pentacles, we get into this energy of manifesting spiritually, like abundance coming through, having the stability that we need, the creative elements that even further our manifestations because of skills and knowledge and development. It's a richer suit, you know. Then we move into the warrior class of the swords, which talks about a whole other element of having to deal with the power of the mind and how the strong, the warrior-like people get ahead further in society. The people who are in control of their mind and in control of their thoughts and at peace with themselves, they are the ones that manifest the best positions within society and become the warrior class, you know. They're the ones that can handle the stresses of battle, you know. And that gets paid very well in society. Those people are rewarded. But ultimately they are people that are at service of the highest class, which is the merchant class, the cups. And it does speak about, you know, how the swords is about spiritually overcoming the mind and its obstacles so you can reach enlightenment. The Suit of Cups is about emotionally balanced and expressing yourself emotionally in your enlightenment journey. You know, your connection to your emotions. Some people choose a path of enlightenment spiritually through disconnecting from their emotions, and some people choose a path spiritually for themselves of being very rich in their emotions and feelings. And both pathways are valid. Both lead to the same destination, because spiritually we're all heading in the same direction, really. But some routes are faster or more enjoyable than others, you know. So this talks about how our emotions impact our enlightenment from a spiritual perspective. And because it's the top class, the merchant class, this is the type of part of spirituality where you have to have your willpower in check already. You have to have your manifestations in check already. You have to have your mind in check already in order to really be able to handle the sensitive and complex energies of the cups, in order to be able to express and explore that with your spiritual enlightenment as well. Because if any of the other three suits are off, it makes your emotions difficult to deal with, and it throws the equilibrium of the water out of balance. So it's interesting. The Suit of Cups is fragile, but it's also rewarding, and it's massive, you know. The ocean is the biggest part of the earth, basically. So that's what I've got to say about the Suit of Cups. And I know this video is a bit more long-winded than the previous three, but this is the last suit, so I wanted to just kind of say some of these things about all four elements in general. But getting into the first card of the Suit of Water, we have the Ace of Cups, which talks about in this deck, we're going to talk about this in a couple different ways. There's the traditional imagery of the Rider-Waite deck, which we could see more easily through the first three decks that I've chosen for these videos. This deck is a little bit different than the traditional symbology of the Rider-Waite, because it's lacking people in the minor arcana. It's just showing like objects and symbols in that are relatable in our day-to-day life as the minor arcana messages. Whereas in the other traditional minor arcana of the uh, Rider-Waite or Smith-Waite deck, has people in it. So it's a different style of relating to the emotional energy. So I'm going to try to talk about what the traditional meaning of the card is, as well as the meaning of this type of card, where these are called pip cards, the minor arcana. I think pip cards refers to minor arcana in general, but I also like to think of it as pip cards being cards without people in them as well. I think that's what that means anyway. I might be wrong about that, but it's a little bit of a different style tarot deck. Some of you guys might prefer to use tarot decks like that, because the people cards, there are people cards, there are the court cards here, and there are people in the major arcana. So you may find it actually more helpful to use a deck like this, where they don't have people in the minor arcana, simply because it takes the confusion out of the process of how many people are in this reading. What person am I talking about? Am I talking about the energy of the card, or am I talking about a person within the card? So it tries to get rid of that confusion by having just the symbolism of the energy of the card in the minor arcana without the people, and then the people energies being tied to the court cards and to the major arcana instead. So that, I think that's really smart for a tarot deck. It is a different style reading. Of course, if you want to ask how many people are in a reading, or if a card represents a person, you can always revert to pendulum work or muscle testing as well, as a fallback if you're getting confused in a reading about who you're talking about, which is a really important aspect of reading for people personally, because when you're doing a personal reading for somebody, there could be a really strong energy in the tarot reading, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's talking directly about them. Maybe it's talking about someone connected to them in their energy field. Because if you just start talking about the meanings of the cards and assume it's going to relate to that person, they might not relate to it. I mean, ultimately, everybody in our life is a reflection of ourselves, so depending on the type of person you get in the reading, they may actually relate to everything you say, but some people don't relate to a lot of things because they've got these blockages within themselves, or these strict boundaries, or these stiff ideas about themselves. They might not even be aware of some of the things that you're talking about, even though they might be true. So you have to be really careful about what you're talking about in a tarot reading, whether it's going to apply to that person or not. So there's a way to change your language and how you're talking to the person, to present ideas without accusing the person of being in that energy, you know? So I'll get more into that maybe in another video, but that is an important aspect, especially when you're talking about emotions, because if you start saying, oh, I see that there's sadness and grief in this card, and this person's not really feeling any sadness or grief right now, even though they may have experienced it in the past and it affects them to this day, they might be in denial of that grief. So it could be a real miss when you're trying to project that onto somebody. You got to really feel it out. That's why muscle testing and pendulum work in a tarot reading is really helpful. Okay, finally we're starting with the Ace of Cups. This Ace of Cups is an opportunity card. It's a brand new beginning. It's a hand from the universe displaying a cup of water, and it's overflowing. It's always overflowing, whether it's in this card or if it's in the major arcana. I mean, in the Rider-Waite deck as well. The overflowing water talks about abundance and healing, and the Suit of Cups does talk about emotional healing in general. You know, going through all the emotions and basically allowing every emotion that you have to be valid and have a place, but not holding on to them, letting it flow like water's meant to flow, instead of it getting frozen and stuck like ice, or evaporated off through anger, or, you know, things like that, or excitement. It's just kind of like let the water flow and go where it needs to go. In this card as well shows the symbol of Christ above the card. That's that little circle with the cross in it. Has the cross in it for a reason. This is what traditionally looks like a piece of bread tablet that you would get in communion when you're in church. They give you the bread to put in your mouth. And that's why there's blood coming from it, because the blood of Christ, basically. It's glowing. There's even little blood droplets falling above. So it does talk about, like Christ-like energy in the Ace of Cups, like really being activated within the emotions and in the higher level of emotions, which is compassion, which is love. Those are the highest aspects. If you think about what Jesus represents and the Christ represents, it's love, it's sacrifice, it's the passion, and compassion. So this is where you want to be in this Ace of Cups. It's like it's the beautiful potential of the whole suit, and then there's the realization of that fullest potential in the Ten of Cups, where you have 10 cups of examples in your life to be grateful for and to have compassion with the variety of life. It's basically seeing like the energy of Christ within your own life in the Ten of Cups. So I know that took on a biblical kind of reference, which might not resonate with everybody, but that's just the symbolism they chose to use in this card here. And the traditional symbolism of that cup is like the Holy Grail energy, is like the Knights of the Templar. It is related to Christ. It has that white dove above the overflowing cup in the Rider-Waite deck, and that dove represents, the Bible stories and all that, the peace, the freedom. So the purity as well, like the purification. So it's like, the Ace of Cups is about purification as well. And I actually believe almost all the suits are about purification through the fire, through the water, through the earth, and through the air. Because it's all about cleansing and opening up your vessel to be more in tune with yourself and with the universe and God and spirit and all of that, which is enlightenment in general, just getting a closer relationship to all of that, a more aware and active relationship instead of a sleep and unaware relationship with the universe. So the Ace of Cups is like, it's really high vibrational energy. It does talk about blessings. Traditionally, if you want to have a few key words for this card, I would say blessings, love, a new relationship, which is really valuable because our relationships show us who we are. It's an abundant energy. The Ace of Cups is a vessel. It's the one cup, so it can represent, and you can see the symbol on the card that reaffirms that triangle on the coffee cup. It can represent the divine feminine, the vessel, the womb. So the Ace of Cups can talk about pregnancy, like, being fertile, being having a baby in the belly type of thing. It can also talk about childbirth, and everything to do with being pregnant and childbirth and all that. Especially if you see a moon card in the reading with the Ace of Cups, or a child card like the Sun or the Ten of Cups or the Six of Cups or a couple of the pages. That's how you know that this Ace of Cups could be potentially talking about pregnancy. And if the Queen of Pentacles was there, like the mom card, or things like that, it would further, the Empress card and everything would give you even more confirmation. So you kind of need multiple cards to know for sure, unless you're really sure just by looking at one card that there might be a pregnancy that you could be talking about, whether it's future, current, or past. Now, pregnancy is very sensitive and private and potentially painful topic for people in tarot readings. So it's something you don't want to just throw out there every time you see the Ace of Cups. You got to be really sensitive about it and really sense and feel whether it's appropriate to bring that up. But if you do see multiple cards saying the same thing to you, you do have to bring it up because it's important to that person, and there are ways to bring it up. You know, you don't have to say exactly the accurate thing that you're feeling right away. You can just start by saying, oh, we've got cards of pregnancy and fertility here. Or, oh, childbirth is possible in these cards. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but the potential's there. Like, you can kind of open up that way, and then they'll start talking to you about it, whether it relates to them or not. Or maybe they won't say anything because they're just stonewalling you the whole time while you're reading for them. And then you just don't go any further with it because, why would you talk for 10 minutes about a pregnancy if they didn't even respond to you about whether or not that's accurate or not? That's a whole other subject in itself, because if someone's not giving you feedback throughout a reading, it's not your job to prove to this person that you can give them like every accurate insight that you need to give them, to prove to them that you can do your job. Like, you don't have to prove that you can do your job as a tarot reader to somebody just because they're stonewalling you and they're not giving you any feedback. That's really rude, That's rude for somebody to do that. They don't know the etiquette of being in a reading, is it to engage with you. Unfortunately, you do have to work through these types of readings with people, because a lot of people just want to sit there and say they don't have any questions, or they don't want to give any feedback. And you have to get through that hour because you want to get paid, and you also don't want to lose your reputation by denying people because they're being that way. So it's like a weird customer service trap that you get stuck in. And talking about things like pregnancy for a long time can really be triggering for people, and that could be a reason why they might talk negatively about you to other people. You don't want people leaving your reading and giving you bad reviews. So that's why this whole topic got brought up with the Ace of Cups, and then with people and pregnancy, and then people wanting to just sit there and stonewall you the whole time, because there's just some things where they're just not appropriate to talk about unless you feel the invitation. It's very open there to talk about it. Whereas you can talk more about like energy and about the psychology of some of the cards, and that's a safer route to go. The spiritual aspect of the cards, because then it leaves more room for interpretation for the person you're reading for, instead of getting into direct fortune telling, like, oh, you're going to be pregnant, or oh, you're going to lose this person, or there's some harsh truths within the Suit of Cups, like death and rebirth and life, that can get you into some serious fortune telling topics, which you might have to dig yourself. It might be too late to dig yourself out of that hole if you kind of go down that direction. Anyway, not to put fear in you, but I just wanted to say that, because part of me giving these tarot lessons is about the etiquette of reading tarot as well. So back to the Ace of Cups. Keywords would be blessings, pregnancy, new love, healing, cleansing, and then everything you want to think about when it comes to water, like whether it's flowing water, or if the card came out reversed, maybe you're thinking it as stagnant water. Like, there's all kinds of ways you can interpret the Ace of Cups, because it is an ace. It's the potential of the whole suit. So you can really go deep into that card, but keep it simple. If you do see the Ace of Cups come up, know that you're talking about the whole suit in general, and that's an important thing to tap into with your tarot reading in that session, because you're looking like, oh, the Ace of Cups came up. Well, we're looking at the story of the water having a new beginning in that area, because aces are new beginnings. So if I'm having a new beginning in the experience of cups, what does that mean? Is it a new relationship? Is it a new wave of healing? Is it a new emotional understanding? Is it something that is overflowing? Or if it's the card reversed, is it something that hasn't been flowing very well but wants to get started? That type of energy. So moving into the Two of Cups, the Two of Cups traditionally shows um, two people staring at each other with, with cups in their hands, and there's like the catechist above it, and there's this healing energy kind of swirling above their heads, and it's a card of love. The Two of Cups does talk about love and one-on-one relationships, because it's two cups. It's two people, two vessels interacting with each other, two vessels that hold spirit within them. It talks about the complexities of a relationship. And whenever you see a Two of Cups, you're talking about a relationship dynamic, whether it's with a person or whether it's with the universe, your relationship to a topic, how you're relating to it, and relating to something is about, duality, and it's a very much a card of duality, night and day, That's why the night and day are in this cup. It's very much duality energy, the masculine and feminine within us, the night and the day. And we also have in this cup, this card here, we have the knot, the two knots being tied together to create one knot. So it does talk about commitment and relationships, where knots and ribbons talk about relationships. Because you're bound together, it's like two cords or threads that are interwoven within the grand fabric of the universe. So each person being a thread or being a strand, and they're knotted together because their paths are not just going to run and intersect at some point and never connect again. No, they're knotted at a junction. That means their lives have a specific period of time where they are together and interacting with each other. So that's a beautiful energy of the Two Cups as well. There's a couple ladybugs in this deck, in this card, so it does talk about the luck and the good fortune of having relationships. And then we look at the actual cups themselves in this deck. There's the daytime coffee cup or tea cup, and then there's the nighttime alcoholic cup beverage. So it does talk about the good and the bad, the dark and the light when it comes to relationships, and also where a lot of these vessels are talking about cups, because it is the suit of cups. Cups can have a reference to alcohol and consumption as well, and that can run through a lot of these different cards. So the Two of Cups particularly talks about alcohol, because there's an alcoholic glass in the cup. Whereas traditionally, alcohol is more closely associated with the Eight of Cups in the traditional tarot, as well as the Temperance card, the Hanged One, the King of Cups, and the King of Pentacles. So if you see those types of cards with maybe the Two of Cups, you're talking about alcoholism or drinking alcohol in some way. The King of Pentacles, because it's the king of fruit vines. There's wine, there's a vineyard in the background of the King of Pentacles card. The King of Cups being a drinker, because he's the King of Cups, or the Queen of Cups. And the Hanged One, because it's Neptune energy, and Neptune energies does talk about addiction and delusion. And the Eight of Cups also talks about delusion and longing and what's that word? Overindulgence, maybe? Nine of Cups can also talk about drinking as well, overindulgence, with the Nine of Cups. So it's interesting. The Two of Cups is basically keywords are relationship. I wouldn't go too much deeper than that, because the fact that relationship is a word coming up means you're going to be talking about a relationship. You're going to have to really rely heavy on the other cards in the spread in order to really tap into what's going on in that reading, unless you're like getting psychic channelings from that Two of Cups that are direct knowing about what's going on in the relationship. Then you see the fact there's a Two of Cups there, you're like, oh, we're talking about a relationship in this reading. Then you go and you look for the people cards in the spread, or you go and look for the energies that can represent what a person's going through. Then you start muscle testing or using a pendulum to see which person it's talking about. So that's an approach to seeing the Two of Cups and the Lover's card in a reading. or just multiple people cards showing up. The Three of Cups is traditionally a card of celebration. It shows three women dancing and with their cups in the air. Three is a sacred number. It can represent, the triangle. It can represent the divine maiden, mother, and crone energy, the triple goddess. It can represent a lot of different things. So threes are about magic and manifestation. They're also about group energy, things working together as a group. Three's a party type of energy, and that's kind of what the Three Cups is talking about in this card. Because here they're having a tea party with a teapot and a tea mug and a coffee mug and some biscuits and some teaspoons, which is beautiful. And above it is a braid of sweetgrass, which is just gorgeous energy, because that just shows how much of a blessing and how abundant this card is. The sweetgrass brings in blessings from the universe. It's a very sacred and holy product, from the earth to burn. And that's why, indigenous cultures burn sweetgrass, because it kind of gives a sweetness to the air and symbolizes, gratitude. So the Three Cups is about gratitude. It's about abundance. It's about socializing, especially with this card. It's heavy on the social aspect with the tea party being here. So whenever you see a Three Cups, it does talk about a group of people usually, or it talks about the next stage in a relationship. If we're going from a new relationship to a relationship, getting closer to, going out with the relationship and dating with the Three of Cups and getting to know how the relationship deals with other people involved, because it's the first relationship is with yourself, the second relationship is with a person, and the third relationship with the Three of Cups is about your relationship plus another person involved, like a third party sometimes even. So a little bit of math involved there, but the Three of Cups is about all of that. So I know I keep repeating myself, but I'm just going to keep going with it, because these videos are hard to channel, so I just have to keep going with what comes out. It's more of a discussion type video than it is about like, bam, this is this, bam, this is that. So anyway, the Three Cups is about socializing, abundance, celebration, people, as well as your mood, feeling good. When it's reversed, you can talk about depression or antisocial. It's a beautiful card. And the Four of Cups is when things start to go a little bit stagnant, because the fours are about foundations, and foundations are where water pools. So when water pools, it gets stagnant, it gets dirty, it starts to fill up with garbage. That's why there's a bottle just thrown into this dark black puddle here of the Four of Cups. And then you look at the wilting flower. Well, it's not wilting, but like the lazy looking flower, the echinacea in the bottle here. Like, that's pure water, but eventually you know that the flower is going to wilt and die. Like, it's a container with just a cut flower in it. So there's a lot of beautiful imagery in this card that talks about the temporariness of the Four of Cups, as well as as how long the energy can be as well. It's like you can either have a temporary moment where things feel good, but then it doesn't pay off in the long run because you're just taking small emotional fulfillments everywhere you go. It's like only the 4 to 10 of Cups. So basically the 4 of Cups talks about emotional dissatisfaction, because you're only because you're emotionally stagnant in some way, and you might be emotionally stagnant because you're not allowing your emotions to flow. You're just taking in little amounts of emotions at a time, adding to a puddle that's fermenting and steaming up and getting all polluted with things, instead of just letting emotions flow all the time and overflow like this cup. It's almost like having too much emotion and letting it get dry and sticky within you. So it's a hard energy to describe, because There's so many ways that emotions can become stagnant. Um, but ultimately, the Four of Cups is about, like, in the traditional Rider-Waite, they have their arms crossed. There's a magical cup flying in the air, just like the Ace of Cups next to their head, but they don't even see the Ace of Cups there. So it's like they're not realizing that there's more out there. There's more emotional fulfillment to be had, that we need to take those opportunities for flow of emotions when they come, or we're just going to hold on to what we've had already and it's going to become stagnant. You can't hold on to water. So it's one of the negative water cards, but it can represent like an opportunity that you don't see, which is fine. Like, it's okay that you don't see it, but maybe because the card comes up, you can see the opportunity in the reading after realizing that that card came up. So there's a silver lining to that card coming up in a reading. The Five of Cups is the number of change, and in this case, it shows the flood, which changes everything to do with the home, the property. The floods destroy things, the overflow of emotions, grief basically, because there's these broken cups and these cups that are spilled upside down, or a can of beer that's been crumpled up here. Like, you can see the broken bottle, right, and the upside down cup and all that. So there's a lot of symbolism in this card that represents loss, basically. So the Five of Cups talks about loss and about grief and about the overflow of emotions and the damage it causes, but how you have to let it flow because, it's the natural course of nature, death, It's kind of one of the death cards in the tarot, basically, or when things end or when things change, which is what death represents. So we have to grieve those feelings, and we have to move through it. We have to realize that there's two other cups that, out of the 5 cups that didn't spill over, they're still upright. You have a little bit, maybe less than you had before, but you may have lost more than what you feel like you're gaining in the future. But you still have to focus on what you do have. Because sometimes it's necessary to lose things and to have loss and stuff so that we can open up to new things in the future or appreciate what we have remaining, So the Five of Cups is basically like a depression card, a grief. It's very sad. And it speaks of the destructive element of water, Grief is also associated with the lungs in Chinese medicine, and the lungs are associated, like, the lungs are a very liquidy and watery place, like they're very moist. So that's an interesting thing as well. Okay, the Six of Cups. The Six of Cups represents nostalgia. It's a 6, so it represents balance and harmony. The Six of Cups does talk about memories, and you can see in this card here, there's the thrown out idea in the paper in the trash. There's the memory at the beach with building a sandcastle and then needing a band-aid, and there's the memory of drinking that cold soda on a summer day, or getting your tooth pulled and getting money for your tooth from the tooth fairy, and then catching some fireflies. It's all these different memories, some of them seemingly small, some of them seemingly big, but ultimately it's an energy of valuing those emotions that you've had, being deep within the past and thinking about the past and reflecting on the emotions of the past, because they do leave impressions on us. We're made of more than just water. We're made of earth, fire, and air, and water can damage those things and leave scars or leave grooves or leave, it can transform and change and sculpt and shape who you are. And that's what the Six of Cups talks about, is the power of water and emotions to the power of your past to shape you, how it shapes you, and that's very beautiful. The Six of Cups also in the traditional deck shows 2 children, and the older child is giving a cup of flowers to the younger child, and it's very beautiful. It shows a home in the background, like they're in the backyard basically playing with their cups and digging flowers and putting them into the cups. So it's a youthful energy. It talks about children, and it does talk about sharing, sharing those good times with people, creating those memories as well as remembering them. So it's a card of like soulmate energy as well. It's a card of like being connected to people through those memories and through those experiences that we share. Beautiful energy. It's a good energy to come up in a love reading, unless it's surrounded by negative cards, of course. Negative energies from the cards, I should say. There's no really negative card. We've got the Seven of Cups coming through as the next card. The seven being about pathways and spirituality, and in this deck they changed the meaning a little bit. So it's got different vessels that hold on to things that are just put on a shelf as a display, like a terrarium, a goldfish in a bowl, a message in a bottle, a diploma, a spider in a cup. That one's cute, the spider in the cup. I know you can't see it on the camera, but it's so cute. Also, like a snow globe, and then there's a crazy creature stuck within the vessel, and some kind of alien octopus creature or whatever. But yeah, basically, it's a complex energy. There's a lot going on in the Seven of Cups. That's appropriate because in the traditional Seven of Cups, it's a lot of different cups with a lot of different things going on in each cup. So it talks about complicated emotions, complicated feelings. It talks about lots of variety, lots of choices, lots of options with your emotions as well. The complexity of them all and how they're all together in one big mishmash all the time, You may have one strong emotion that's running at a period of time, but sometimes you don't have strong emotions flowing, and it's just a cloudy day full of, a day full of clouds, which are made out of water. A day full of obscure emotions that are just kind of floating around, like the subconscious, basically, that are obscuring your view of the light, the warmth. So the Seven of Cups is not necessarily a super positive card. It is about like confusion, and there's a lot of smoke and clouds in the traditional Seven of Cups from the Rider-Waite. Shows the person looking at all that smoky cloud and all the cups and all the different things in the cups, and it talks about illusions, about dreams, about how you can't make sense of all your emotions all the time either. Like, you can't always use it's the card that's like the least controlled by the Suit of Swords, basically. It's when the Suit of Swords is like not working well with the Seven of Cups, with the Suit of Cups, I should say, because the swords are about controlling the mind, basically, and the Seven of Cups is when you realize that you can't control the mind, and it's a really interesting energy. But keywords of the Seven of Cups would be confusion, many options, complex feelings, a complicated choice. Make sure you choose the right thing. Some things are not real. It's a card that talks about reality. So the Eight of Cups traditionally shows somebody walking away with their back turned to the viewer of the card, and they're climbing up a hill, and there's the water, like a shore or a cove in the background with some rocky mountains, and just basically shows like a high barren terrain next to a coastal terrain. And it's at nighttime with the full moon above it, with the stars. So it's a nighttime energy. It does talk about like the more darker side to our subconscious and to our emotions. And it talks about those deep underlying emotions, like the moon in the background of the card, that really shape our mental health and who we are and what we desire and what we long for. So those are the deep, powerful subconscious feelings that we might not even fully grasp, but they do encourage us to move in directions where we walk away from certain things that emotionally are fulfilling temporarily, like the Four of Cups or the Three of Cups, but we realize that there might be something more fulfilling out there in the 9 or 10 of Cups than what we've experienced in the previous 7 Cups. So it's kind of like an entryway, a portal with that moon into a deeper experience, a more sophisticated level of emotional fulfillment. And it talks about how longing and desire and boredom is a blessing from the divine, because it encourages us to go out there and seek out more stimulation emotionally and more answers emotionally, and basically getting to the root of what is keeping us unsettled. So it's basically a restless energy. And in this card, it shows different vessels kind of around the house that are capturing leaking water from the ceiling. And it basically means that, like, you got to leave your situation. You can't keep patching it up. You can't keep, trying to hold on to every emotional opportunity that you have. Like, eventually, even if you have lots of different things in your life that are fulfilling you emotionally, especially in the 7 of Cups, perhaps you choose all the different things that you want to focus on instead of focusing on just one. Maybe you didn't learn the lesson of the 7 of Cups, and you're still focusing on all the different things that give you emotional fulfillment. Well, eventually that just, from a soul's perspective, looks like you're just maintaining the flow. You're just maintaining the high of having all these different emotional experiences, but really you're not getting to the root of what's going to give you sustainable emotional support and sustainable emotional health. If you didn't have all those different things in your life that were giving you a combination of things that combine together and give you an overall feeling of satisfaction, then maybe you should go off and search for that one thing that's going to give you ultimate satisfaction, or find that community that you can be within in the 10 of Cups, where you have so much connection with other people that it's always going to be stimulating emotionally. Because the last thing you want to do is become isolated with the Suit of Cups. Because in your isolation, which is this is a card of isolation, by the way, the 8 of Cups, that you get in touch with the more darker feelings and the subconscious aspect of your mind and your emotions. And there can be a lot of you can go a little crazy in this card. You can lose yourself in the 8 of Cups. So it's a very powerful energy. It's really potent. And it's very closely associated with the Moon card. The 9 of Cups is that energy of, wish fulfillment. It's when you have all the trophies and the champagne glasses and the expensive vases, and it indicates a level of victory with the laurel wreath here, and with a level of appreciation and satisfaction and having money, having luxuries, So the 9 of Cups is like the 9 out of 10 Cups. It's a really good state to be in. But it can be hollow. It can be like placing all of your wish fulfillment on one thing, when really life is not about just focusing on one thing. It's about the whole experience, which is what the 10 of Cups talks about. So the 9 of Cups has its limitations. It is about like accumulating and rewarding yourself and being satisfied with accomplishments, the things that we have to focus on. But the true fulfillment, the true wish fulfillment, is in the 10 of Cups. So where the 9 is kind of getting closer to the 10, it's more individual, it's more single. It is a single person energy usually, unless you see relationship cards next to it. A standalone 9 of Cups would be a single person. The 10 of Cups is when you have a family. It's when you have pets. It's when you have children, or you have a community that you feel connected to. It's the ultimate fulfillment card. It's the ultimate emotional experience, which is basically just having the full emotional range of all 10 cups in your life. Yourself plus the other 9 energies. The 1 plus all the 2 to 9, So it's interesting. The self interacting with the self and the other people around it. That's the 10 of Cups. 10s are about endings as well. It's the most of one suit. It's the 10 of Cups and the 10 of Pentacles are the positive 10s. The 10 of Wands and the 10 of swords are more negative. Um, so um, ultimately the tens can be like good and bad, they've kind of split them off into two different versions of that. But basically, if you think about it though, like as I'm just thinking about it now, like having the good the good tens being the Ten of Cups, the Ten of Pentacles, which is both feminine energy, and the negative tens being both masculine energy. That's interesting. Like it does hint at it is a subtle hint from whoever made the tarot spread that the feminine is better when there's more of it and there's less masculine. you know. So there might be a little bit of an undercurrent of whoever made the tarot, of the tarot cards being innately balanced in a more positive way when we're more in touch with our feminine. But that's just because the tarot cards are from from the last couple thousand years, where we've been moving away from feminine energy and moving towards masculine energy, and now we're moving back into feminine energy again. So it's very interesting. Anyway, we've got the Page of Cups, the Knight of Cups, the Queen of Cups, and the King of Cups. So the four court cards that represent the cup energy, they're characters, they're people cards. So they can represent very, very individual people and with a very individual story. You kind of get a more predictable story from the other three suits when it comes to court cards, because we're talking about the actions and the body and the work with the wands, and we're talking about the money, the abundance, the stability, and the creations and the knowledge with the pentacles. And then we're talking about the swords, where it gets more complicated about people's minds, but a lot of our minds are all the same, really. It's just people working with them in different ways. But the emotions are really complex. The emotions are what make us really individual. They're unpredictable. You can't really analyze them as much as you can analyze the thoughts. Emotions are more raw to our experience. So the Page of Cups definitely talks about, and the Knight of Cups, the Queen of Cups, the King of Cups, like very individually expressions of people. They're highly creative. They're sensitive cards. They represent gentler energies, more feminine energies of the people. And it's really cool. Anyway, I love tarot. I'm just kind of geeking out a little bit right now. I love doing these videos for you guys. But basically, the Page of Cups is the first. It's the page. It represents new beginnings, doing things new emotional experiences, being a little bit green, being a little bit inexperienced in one area, maybe inexperienced in relationships. Maybe it's just a more shallow relationship that we're talking about when this person card comes up. So it can represent friendships and not like lovers, or the beginning of a love relationship, but not the more developed relationship, which is more about the Knight of Cups than Queen and King. The more you get into the higher energies, the more developed the relationship is. Especially from Page to King Queen status. So yeah, the Page of Cups is like about sensitive feelings, emotions, like new emotions, new feelings. A young person, a creative person. You can talk about mental health as well as physical health. You can talk about fragility and weakness. The Page of Cups is sometimes considered like the gay card as well. Doesn't have to be, though. I'm just using that word as a blanket word, but in one of my other tarot decks, the Page of Cups was like the coming out card in the tarot, which is very beautiful. The this whole deck is called the Fifth Spirit Tarot. I should have said that in the beginning. But I meant to introduce the fact that this deck is gender inclusive and gender neutral, as well as really represents people who you can't just look at the cards and see the person in the card and think, is that a woman or a man? Like the features are mixed, the archetypes are mixed, because we're trying to get out of that binary expression of people and that judgment that comes with reading tarot cards, and judgment that comes with people in general, with gender and with sexuality and all of that. So the Suit of Cups was the perfect suit to use this gender neutral deck in, because the Suit of Cups is about complex feelings and about individual expression, you know. So the Page of Cups really represents that. So keywords for the Page of Cups would be fresh, new, friendship, communication, a lover, like a love communication maybe, because pages talk about communications. A student, somebody who's just learning about their feelings. They have a lot of emotional maturity to grow. It's a childlike energy. So the Knight of Cups is progressing. It's in movement. That's why in this deck the Knight of Cups is wearing rollerblades, because normally the Knight of Cups would be on a horse, right? And this character here is more female, feminine expressing, but it's also more athletic. It's more like jockey like, where they're doing a roller derby type of energy, or maybe just out in the street having fun, rolling around on the rollerblades. It's a really cool card. So the Knight of Cups traditionally shows that knight with the beautiful armor that it's wearing, ornate armor, the very expensive stuff that is decorated by artisans. And the Knight of Cups has the plume of horsehair on the top of the helmet, and has a white horse, which is a very valuable and pure energy. And it's getting close to a river to drink some water, or it's going to cross over a river in the traditional tarot. So the Knight of Cups is facing from one direction to the other. From left, it's moving from left to right. So it does talk about moving forward in your emotions. It's the romance card traditionally in most tarot decks, because it's about exploring your feelings, exploring the depths of emotional, being brave about your emotions. And that's all about romance, right? Getting more intimate. It's about intimacy and being more intimate in your relationships, because you're willing to explore them, you're willing to have fun, you're willing to put in the work, you're willing to move within your emotions instead of just being a spectator. It's an active participant, basically. Knight of Cups. It just talks about emotional effort. So it's a beautiful energy. And knights can represent offers of love, or offers in general. So with the cups, it could be offers of love or offers emotionally. Very emotional offer. It can be I'm just going to leave it there with the knight. The Queen of Cups is one of the mastery cards. The king and queens master their emotions, and queens are cardinal energy. So cardinals are energies in the zodiac world, in the astrology world, represent people who have really strong, potent version of this energy. They've got the highest level of skill, and they also are action starters and entrepreneurial energies. So the queens in general are, they get things done. They're very much generating a lot of new energy in our life. They give birth to new life, because they are female energies or feminine energies. They are the mother archetypes. They are creators. So it is cardinal energy. And the Queen of Cups being the psychic in this deck, which is cool because We've got a person here with pendulums and a scrying bowl and crystals and tarot deck on the table, and so it's kind of cool that they came up with that version of the Queen of Cups, because the Queen of Cups does talk about future vision and psychic and intuitive gifts. It's very much like the High Priestess, but it's more social, it's more engaging, it's more self-absorbed as well. Not saying that like emotional women are self-absorbed, but it's the Queen of Cups in the traditional tarot has the queen just looking into this ornate cup, and her head's tilted down and looking at the cup, and she's not looking at the environment around her. She's absorbed within the emotions. So it does talk about being fully immersed in your emotions and fully in tune with them. And because you're in tune with your emotions and the emotions of others, you're more psychic, So that's a really cool thing about the Queen of Cups. It can talk about a feminine energy that's in love with you, or you're in love with them. It can represent emotional health in a reading in general, whether if the card's upright or reversed. It can talk about jealousy when it's reversed, or vanity. It's a mother energy. It's like a partnership energy, because the suit card, the suit of cups and the court cards do normally talk about relationships more than the other cards do. So when you see a king and queen pairing in a reading, or a knight and a queen and a king or something or whatever, you know that those cup energies are talking about the person in respect to being in a relationship with them. That's either a love relationship or a family or a close friend. It's not just your generic relationships, basically. There's a lot more emotional connection in these ones, because that's what's being brought forth in the relationship. So, if you see a Queen of Cups, it's usually like a lover, or a partner. Same as with the King of Cups. The King of Cups can talk about all of that, but it's also the King, which is about mastery, where the Queen is about like raw creative power. The King of Cups is about more like discipline and self-mastery of emotions and feelings, being composed, being, that deep feeler, that deep creative force. But the King also represents sensitivity and good humor. But it does talk about having a lot of emotional depth. And here we have like a father-like looking person here in this deck with like the casual regular dad kind of clothes on, and it's showing in the home with regular sneakers there and some rain going on in the background in the window frame. So it's about being sensible with your emotions, not going out in the rain, having a nice hot cup of coffee indoors where it's safe, So it does talk about mastering your emotions, being calm even when there's a storm going on outside. And the King of Cups is all about mastering the emotions, basically. And that's a very complex topic. So, you look at the other cards around and you're thinking, well, what's in the way of this person mastering their emotions, or what's benefiting them in mastering their emotions? And with the King of Cups is talking about like boss-like energy as well as the Queen of Cups, but the Queen of Cups is more like, it's less of a boss energy than the King of Cups is, because the King of Cups represents like, the owner of like the ships, basically the fisherman, or the owner of the vessels that are bringing in the merchandise to the cities. The King of Cups is definitely, the masculine energy that's in love, or the partner, the dad, the lover, the husband. And the best thing to do with the Suit of Cups is not to assume too much about them, because you don't want to assume what people's feeling emotionally. Whereas you can make assumptions more about it's easier to make assumptions. It's more relatable when you're talking about things or physical things or energy or thoughts. But when it comes to the emotions, it's a much more difficult suit to read, I think, than any other suit. So, that's probably why I left it for last as well, even though it was in the order of the traditional tarot. Okay, so we're just going to quickly run through the major arcana. I'm going to tell you what zodiac signs are associated with which cards and give you a brief description. If you want more description about major arcana, I've done a whole major arcana video, and that's already in the list of videos that you have access to as a member. So the High Priestess is a Pisces energy. So is the Hanged One, the Hanged Man, or the Hanged One in this deck. And so is the Moon. Three different aspects to Pisces. The High Priestess being the psychic, the esoteric, the veil, the unknown. The Hanged One being the depth, the creativity, the dream world, the addiction, the struggle. And the Moon being the illusion, the mind and the emotions together, what you don't see, as well as mental health in general, fear. Fear is a big emotion that's in the Moon card. The Chariot card is the Cancerian energy, and the Moon card also can be Cancerian energy as well, because the Moon is rules the sign of Cancer. So it does talk about the feminine energy, the mother-like energy of Cancerian, of the family, of the home, and the more feminine attributes to the Moon instead of the more mental health attributes of the Moon. The Chariot represents the tenacity of Cancer, the forward movement, the strength of Cancer, of the Cancer zodiac sign. Then we have the Death card, the Tower, and the Judgment, which represent Scorpio energy. The Death card being death and rebirth, which is a big major theme of Scorpio. Changes and transformation, basically, with the Death card. The Tower card being the destructive force of Scorpio, the Mars-like energy, and the Pluto-like energy of transformation and change. Sudden shifts, destruction of your emotions as well, the breakdown. And the Judgment card talks about revival and renewal of your emotions, your spirit in general. It's much more spiritual than the other cards, the other major arcana. Talks about your relationship to the other side and your ancestors and all of that, which is very much an aspect of Scorpio as well. So that's the energy of the suit of water. Wow, we really made it through. I was worried about this video because I knew it was really complicated, but I hope that you guys were able to follow along and get something out of this video. So it's going to be posted just for members on my channel. So if you do end up coming across this video and you enjoyed it, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear some feedback. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.